Hi there, this is Susie Fulton, and welcome to our latest edition of Rockstar Launcher, where we talk to rock stars across various industries, and we are going to discuss the intersection of law and business, and also find out more about how they started their journeys and more about how they became the rock star that they are. I'd like to introduce you to my law partner, Shireen El Domeri, and she will introduce you to our guests from there.
Yeah, thank you, Susie. I'm so excited to be here. Today I have a very fun guest, Nick Dimatteo, who is the CEO, founder, and all things of FortyFiveGames. And we are so excited to have you here and can't wait to dive in.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I guess, as Susie said, we're going to talk about kind of the journey, and I know you've had a very interesting one, but you are recently an entrepreneur, is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, I guess recently an official entrepreneur. You've been doing it for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about your influences that made you take that plunge?
Sure. I've always considered myself a little bit of an entrepreneur, and I think the majority of my career was focused on making businesses that I worked in just as great as they can be. Very fortunate very early in life to have my grandfather. Both of them had military background. Both of them became entrepreneurs after their military service. So very early in life, I was set on a path of very regimented thought process, execution, but then also thinking in a way that was pretty broad to be able to just deliver whatever goods and service or something really cool to their general service audience.
Excellent. And can you tell us a little bit about FortyFiveGames and what it does? And then we'll go a little bit back into how you got there.
Sure. FortyFiveGames, well, it started as a design and consulting company and strategically focused on indoor high volume locations like location-based entertainment, family entertainment centers, entertainment, and casinos. And over the years, I'll say it's definitely changed a little bit.
And how did you find yourself in this position to start this business?
Yeah, so I worked for a really big company. There was a merger within the company, and then the merger was basically washed out in the merger. So I had an opportunity to start for myself, and I was very lucky to be able to cross paths with some incredible individuals along the way, and basically springboarded me to where I am now. Right.
And so you started your business when, in 2022?
Yes, 2022.
Right. So I think we met kind of at the same point in time when I had also exited corporate and started on this journey of being out in private practice and eventually joining the firm Fulton Shong. But I think we met almost at about the same time in our entrepreneur paths at one of the locations that you were assisting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was early 2023.
Yes. And can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be?
Yeah, so it's really happenstance, but the best kind. There was a location that opened in my backyard, for better choice of words. I identified that they were in entertainment focused, but there were things missing from the business model that I thought could give them longevity. So just wanted to play nice and introduce myself to the ownership. Started a relationship from there. And then there was an esports event that was in the area. I think we were both at a, basically like an after party for an esports event, and that's how we initially connected.
Yes, and it was fun. Lots of interesting people, lots of good connections.
For sure.
And we've been growing our relationship since then. And I think one of the things that's interesting when you go on this entrepreneurial journey is, especially if you've been in corporate, like you were used to having a lot of support in that environment, and then you come out of it and you're like, oh, I need to find the people that service me, especially based on size and who can grow with you to scale. And I think there was a lot of synergies there for why we met, and just being in the gaming industry and seeing what is out there and emerging. So I think that was very fortuitous of us to be in the same place at the same time and at a place where we had emerging tech. And I know that that's near and dear to your heart.
Very much so.
And you have something that you've built in the last couple of years that is here in DFW. The first location is here that you've been able to deploy one of your inventions. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure, I'll touch on it lightly. So in what FortyFiveGames does, we started as design and consulting. And then we've kind of pieced the consulting business into a group called Pinnacle Entertainment Group, which they've onboarded me as their VP of Ops and Business Development. Super lucky to join the team there, unbelievable talent level, and again, very fortunate to be a part of that team. And it allows me to operate on the engineering and creative side for FortyFiveGames independently. So I think it started back in 2003. A friend of mine won an award. His name is An. And it's New Year's today, so I was able to call him on the way over and wish him Happy New Year's. And he took us to a place that had, I'll say, an interactive, very generic light experience within food and beverage. And it really inspired me to kind of play with the unit. And I'm really a child at heart, and I'm probably still a child forward-facing to you guys as well. But again, it gave me some inspiration. I wrote some notes down on the day and emailed it to myself, and I still keep those notes to this day. And over the years, it's been 22 years since I first went there with him, and I've built 3 or 4 iterations of that. And we finally got to a place where I'm independent and I can kind of take those ideas to the next level, and we went off and patented that. So it's an immersive room experience that doubles as like a karaoke room, but it also drives LBW for people not in food and beverage, it's liquor, beer, and wine sales. And we're able to leverage that platform to help operators get the most amount out of their square footage that they can, but also at the same time create a little bit of surprise and delight for the people that get to interact with the environment. It's really fun stuff. Yeah,
I like that you touched on the kid at heart, because I think that that's probably a theme that started young. I mean, we're not going to go into exactly how old we are, but back in the day when you could go around the corner to your local arcade, or in your case, I think there was a bodega in your neighborhood that had some games, and clearly that passion grew with you over the years. So I know one of your first jobs was not in games, but eventually you found your way there. So how has that influenced you in just, or how did you create your path to staying in games and entertainment? I know it's not necessarily the easiest path.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a linear path by any stretch of the imagination. So as a child, I was infatuated with gaming, and I think of all kids of a young age, you love to play. And I think I was one of the last generations where you played outside and inside. And I loved both. And I had a Nintendo, I played arcade games, was infatuated with gameplay, and as I grew up, I always just kept that close to me. But I never thought I'd be able to make a real career out of it. I just thought I'd have to do other things and do that as almost like a hobby of sorts. And just was very fortunate enough to fall into, I'll say, amusements. And made a 20-some-odd year career out of it, created some really cool stuff along the way, and just tried to continue to keep that, whatever the heart of the player is at any age, as close as I can to me. The more that I can understand that and the more that I can keep it close to me, the better that I can create things that people really want to enjoy. And it sounds easy when I say it, but you spend an incredible amount of time just watching people and trying to understand what people love to do.
Nick, over the course of your career, you have taken unsuccessful companies and made them successful. You've taken successful companies and made them even more successful. And what are some of the things that you've done, or what are some of the keys that you find in being able to do that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And believe it or not, I get asked that question relatively frequently. I do mentorship and like other trade organizations and things of that sort. And there's no real silver bullet. I think everybody wants the silver bullet, the magic pill, and there really isn't. It's a conglomerate of things all together. And there was a woman called Angela Lee Duckworth that did a TED Talk on grit, and it's passion and perseverance are very long-term goals. So I think for me, it starts there, right? You believe in the thing you believe in, and you have passion for it, and you have a really solid plan to get it to a place over a long period of time. And then I think, in addition to that, it's just, people that think that there's a great balance between work and life when you're in entrepreneurship, there isn't. Now, you have to be all in. And when you're all in, sometimes that's really disruptive to your personal life. So having supportive people around you that understand the mission that you're on or what you want to do, that allow you that flexibility to go deeper when you have to, is really super important to at least have some kind of normalcy at the end of your day, even if it's lopsided.
And I think everybody has, when you're a success as an individual, it's not because of you alone. There's always a team that's involved in this,
absolutely.
Right? And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that there are some things that people find to be defects or faults in people, but you see beyond that, and you've been able to pull what, public may perceive as something wrong with that person, and take that and build it as a strength. How do you pull that out of these people, your teammates, and how do you find, turn that supposed defect into their superpower?
Yeah, it's another really fun one. So one of my old offices was called the Land of Misfit Toys, and we wore that proudly. It was a takeoff of like a cartoon animation that I saw as a kid. It was like Santa's Workshop, and there's a race car missing a wheel, and there was like an army man missing an arm, that kind of stuff. And growing up, I'm lopsided as far as my ability to do things. There's some things I do incredibly well, and there's some things I'm just horrible at. And I started to find a way that instead of trying to just make up the middle ground on the bottom tier of my stuff, I tried to really start to focus on the things I did well and take it into outer space. And when I started to figure out that I can do that, I figured out that I could do that with others. So I started to build teams of people that maybe had an affliction in their personal life, like maybe they're OCD, and they need to clean at an obsessive rate, and that's disruptive to their professional career. But being able to find environments where those people can take what they feel is their Achilles heel in life and focus it in a business sense where they can then own out that process, they do the most amazing job. And then the entire team rallies around them, because the team typically in many cases doesn't want to do that. And then they're never going to be able to execute it at that same level. So there's somebody on the team that loves to do a thing that they don't want to do, and they do it at such a high level that people just wrap their arms around each other. So creating a box where people can really have true appreciation for a skill set that's offsetting of theirs. And I find that I do that in my personal relationships as well.
Well, you're like a real people person. I know connecting with people on deeper levels is important to you. And I know we've talked about this a lot, that's in the same vein of, neurodivergence. I know your wife is in the special ed, and then, just dealing with that, as you were talking about some of these abilities where you have exceptional abilities in some areas and not so great in others, and being able to recognize that that's not necessarily a hindrance was really impactful. But I think you also talked about, what is special about you is that level of thinking about the person and trying to make them the best. So what influences do you think you had earlier in life to kind of get you to focus on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I really equate a lot of my adult success to my childhood and my grandfather. So it was my mother's father. Business person, military background, entrepreneurial, and just, hustler personality. And he loved everybody. So he was a total people person. And just watching him navigate life as a child, I think that was my superhero. So people wanted to be Superman, and I wanted to be like my grandfather.
Yeah. Well, and I think he recognized that in you and probably started the entrepreneurial bug in you earlier than when you finally took the plunge
Yes.
as an adult. So can you tell us a little bit about that story, 6-year-old you as the mini entrepreneur?
So my grandfather used to go to these larger type of wholesaler places, and in one of his shopping escapades, he took me with him, and I got infatuated with what I thought was a little compass, and I just wanted them for me because I thought it was cool. My grandfather in his wisdom would never let me have it just for me, so the hook was that he would buy me a gross. It was 144 pieces, but I had to sell them. And he taught me how to sell them, and the idea was that I would take them to school, and I would sell two compasses for a nickel to the girls, and one compass for a nickel to the boys. And I didn't understand why. He was like, just do it. And I did it, and then all the girls had them, then all the boys wanted them, and I sold out the compasses. So I come home one day with my mom's cleaning my backpack, because I was notoriously messy, especially with my backpack. And she finds this bag of change, and at a dinner she has an aha moment, hey, where did all these come from? What were you doing? And eventually I had explained, I guess the best way I could at 6 or 7 years old, whatever it was, that her father, my grandfather, had bought them for me. And she had called them to verify. And she was like, why are you doing this with him? But like very early in life, I got to see like that I could influence a buying decision. The buying decision had influence on others. And that brought people like relatively a big deal of happiness at that point, or at least my perceived at that age. So selling people stuff that they really wanted. And it was like a cool thing to have. And now I had this little bag of change I got to spend on candy and other stuff at the stores and video games, of course.
I think, when you get as far along into your career as you are now, that it's unavoidable that you run into the legal end of business.
Sure.
Tell us how or if you have stories about how legal or lawyers have helped or hindered you in your path.
Okay. I think this is another great question. In a large organization, there's always opportunity for unfortunate things to happen to people. And some of those things are incidental, and some of those things are purposeful. So when you're at a large entertainment-based location provider, there's all kinds of stuff and everywhere in between. There's people that target you, and there's stuff that just breaks. So I was very, very lucky to be able to work with the legal team in that organization where they were able to show me where some of the lawsuits were coming from, the repetitiveness of them, and really had a great relationship to take that information and then go back to manufacturing of those units and either redesign those parts or redesign the unit to mitigate some of that legality. And for us, it was huge. I mean, when you're a large box, those lawsuits are not $5,000 and $10,000. We're talking about tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So cross-departmental collaboration was always super strong with me. And I always tried to find a way from whether it was finance, strategy, operations, or legal, that there was something that everybody needed, and it was a way to bring that team together, or at least try to work on some of those issues. So it was really cool to be able to do that.
That's refreshing to hear because, sometimes I think, and particularly in larger organizations, a lot of times you have departments or people that don't want to go to legal because they're afraid that legal is going to say no or slow them down or block what they're trying to do, rather than having the goal of working together like you did with your legal. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and realistically, at the end of the day, the legal team has the insight, and I'll say they have a lot of juice within the organization, but their ability to bring that issue to resolution is beyond them. That's not their skill set. So really, you'll hear me speak about partnership in my personal life a lot, my personal relationships and my professional. So for me, it's the same. And just being a great partner to the people around you is important.
And then when you broke out as an entrepreneur, how did you find those partners that you were looking for?
Oh man, I'm very, very specific about who I work with. There are engagements that I've had as I started out on my journey. And when you're starting out, you need every dollar to be successful, to be able to keep the thing going. And I've ended engagements because I've learned that people weren't, I'll say, the right kind of people. I've just ended the engagement and refunded people's money. So I think it's important to align yourself with people that are great people, that are good humans, and want similar things at the end of the day. And to find them is a challenge. Like, I think you're great people, and it took me, while we met early in life, or entrepreneurial life, up until that point in life, I had never met you, and I had never met someone quite like you. So I think those things, I referenced happenstance earlier, taking advantage of that when you do find the people to kind of cement the relationship, because those are the people I want to be closest to.
Right, and I think one of the other things you had mentioned, as we've talked over time, is how important it is to surround yourself with a team that understands what you're going through. And for other people who are starting businesses or thinking about businesses, how do you feel about wearing all the hats versus trying to outsource some of that stuff?
I like to wear some of the hats. I mean, I really do enjoy having my hands in the dirt, for better choice of words. I've always have. It's when I'm in the dirt, I can see everything. And then it allows me to build other cool stuff or collaborate with people. But referencing the people around you, I mean, you have to have amazing teams. Like, there's nobody that does it alone and makes it there all by themselves. And so for the people that think that, I mean, that's just foolish. You have to have fantastic people around you. So I pride myself on building amazing teams, surrounding myself with great humans, that have always led me to higher levels in life, career, or personal.
Entrepreneurs aren't really well known for having work-life balance because it tends to go more towards the work end. And
Absolutely.
do you feel like you have found work-life balance, or where are you right now?
No, absolutely not. And I have no expectations of work-life balance. I have a mentor through one of the trade organizations, and recently he asked me, he said, hey, like as I work for this employer, I'm really finding that my life is out of whack as far as work-life balance. And I said, oh, like the higher you climb, the worse that gets. If people are telling you the higher you climb, the easier it gets, those are the people you probably don't want to work for. You want to be near the people who, as you get higher, they continue to double down and be more involved in the business and more involved in your life and take a personal interest in you to develop you. Those are the people that are sacrificing their personal time to put their time in you. They have their professional job to do, and then you become the side project, and you become ultra important to them. So for the people that are not thinking that, hey, I'll become an entrepreneur and I'm going to work 15 hours a week, there's probably a YouTube star out there that has done that. But I think for the 99.9% of us, it's a lot of work. And you have to love that work.
Yeah, so that's the draw, right? Like you have to really like it or know. I mean, I think in your sense, you knew that you would rather work for yourself than for someone else.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have, during your career, you had created some things. Mm-hmm. And I think when you came out, you realized there was something that you should be potentially doing differently as far as protecting the work and the ideas in your designs. Mm-hmm. So how has that experience been in the wonderful world of patents?
Mm-hmm. So it's another good legal conversation. I think having the right representation, having people to understand that space is a big portion of what that whole process is like. You have an idea, lots of people have fantastic ideas. To create an idea that's actually patentable, that's scalable and can make money, that has a business case behind it, not so easy. So to find legal representation that understands what you're trying to say, because in the beginning, if you've never done it before, you have no idea what you're doing. So to be able to find the right people to connect with, they could take that information and say, hey, this is something that is patentable. This is what the process is like. This is the path we're on. This is what the financial commitment is. And this is what the financial commitment is going to be ongoing after you get through a certain point of the process. It's very important to have that. A lot of people try to do that on their own, and then they find themselves at the end of that race very frustrated with a lot of lost dollars. And I think having that correct partnership is very, very important.
There's not a silver bullet, like you said, to finding success, and it's not something that you can encapsulate in one word or one sentence even. But for anybody who's starting off, whether they're out of high school, out of college, or even later on in their life, then they're ready to jump into this entrepreneurial life, what advice do you have for them?
Man, somebody starting out, so I'd say first, find a great mentor. Find somebody that's really doing a great job within that vertical and see if you could reach out to them and try to get some mentorship. And if there's no mentorship available through them, try to find a trade organization tied to that vertical. And then usually there's some kind of mentorship program in parallel to the trade organization. I think that's a great first step. And then I think you have to follow opportunity. There's passion and you have to follow passion, but sometimes passion is fickle. So passion might lead you to a place to create opportunity, and then you chase that opportunity. And then sometimes that opportunity will bring you right back to your passion.
So one of your, well, I don't know if it's one of your passions, but I know it's something that is near and dear to your heart, involves rubber ducks.
Yeah.
And you had a invention that involved the rubber ducks, mm-hmm. and also a charity mm-hmm. situation. Can you tell us a little bit more about the wonderful world of rubber ducks?
Sure. This is a fun one. So I got to a place in life where I got to go to really cool places. And I say cool places as in the people that distribute all of the fun toys and stuff that people would use in entertainment locations worldwide. And super amazing people. I was a part of a fantastic team that brought me there. And just in my wanting to do something different and find something, I was playing with all the toys. And the goal was to create a new product line for a part of the world that we lived in that had to behave a certain way. So I was just looking and playing with things like whoopee cushions and sitting on them and making noises and just being a kid. And I come across these ducks, and like in an instant, you have like that brain flash, where like the Jimmy Neutron cartoon, where it's like you see everything in a moment. And I got to see it all kind of come together. And I had turned back to my COO at the time, who was with me, and I said, "Hey," his name is Steve, by the way. I was like, "Hey, I want to put these in a crane." And he thought I was joking around because I had was just playing like a child for 15 minutes there. And finally, I was able to convince him that I really wanted to do it, and he really took a chance on me in doing this. Allowed me to buy the first cases of it because I had no budget for it. So it was all him that had to approve it. So he took a chance on me. I was able to buy them. I put it in a crane machine, and it just blew up. So it's if you ever seen a rubber ducky crane somewhere, I invented the crane. I got to influence the product line. And then probably 15 years later, there was a woman called Allison Parliament who was traveling in the US into Canada and had a really uncomfortable interaction with somebody, and Allison was always the bright spot person, always see the better of everything. So she goes into a store to kind of collect herself, and she sees rubber duckies there, so she buys them, and then she writes something on a ducky like "Have a nice day," and puts it on somebody else's vehicle, as just to try to make them smile, or like a kind of funny thing. And she was always slightly awkward, so she gets caught, like as only she would. Yeah. And the guy, like jokingly, was like, "Oh, you should probably like put this on social media," and they did, and it exploded. So now that trend is called Jeep ducking. And again, I just want to be clear, I did not start that trend. That was Allison. Yeah. But the community does use some stuff that I had, designed and built for that crane in a prior life. And now her mom, Cheryl Parliament, is the one that's heading the charity. And it is the largest global community of kindness without a very significant revenue stream. So I believe it's in 86 countries. If you've ever seen a Jeep drive by, you'll see little rubber duckies on the dash. That's that whole movement. It's only designed to just make somebody smile. You put a little ducky on somebody's door handle, so when they get up to the vehicle, they just see it there, they smile, and that's it. That's all it is. It's that simple, that sweet.
Well, I understand why you're involved in it.
So we're almost out of time here, but and I want to end. We don't want to judge. We're not judging or anything, but I noticed that you are prone to dad jokes. Is that right?
I have done those in the past a little bit.
Okay. Like I said, I mean, we're not judging, and we're just here to accept you for who you are in all of your awesomeness, your rock star awesomeness, and along with that, we will take the dad jokes.
So I'm a part of I do some charity work within my community, and there's a trade organization, and the chair of the trade organization asked all of the members coming in to start it with a dad joke. So we all had to do that. So I did a recent LinkedIn post where I tried to put as many as I could obnoxiously into the post, and I kind of called her out on it. So I guess one that I'll share here today is, why should you never iron a 4-leaf clover?
I don't know.
Because you never want to press your luck.
You know what? I mean, with that, I don't think we have anywhere else to go, and I think we need to end on that one with the dad joke, and we thank Nick for being our treasured guest today, and we hope to catch you on our next Rockstar Launcher podcast. Thank you very much.